Hello everyone. In this session, we will discuss about interrupting the threads in Java programming. When any thread is in sleeping mode or waiting mode, by calling sleep method or wait method in Java, we can use interrupt method on that specific thread to bring that thread from sleeping mode into the active mode or waiting mode into the active mode, and also it will use the interrupted exception handling method. But when a thread is not in the sleeping state or waiting state, even though we are using interrupt method, then it will behave normally. That means we can use that interrupt method, but it will not do anything on that particular thread because the thread is not in the sleeping state or waiting state. So it will not have any impact over that threads, but it will set that thread interrupt flag into the true mode. That means a boolean variable true mode. Here the thread class is having three different interrupt methods. One is void interrupt method, which is interrupting the currently sleeping thread or currently waiting thread, and another one method is static method boolean method interrupted, which is just testing whether the currently running thread is interrupted or not. Another one is interrupted boolean method, which is instance method, just it is testing whether the currently running thread is interrupted or not. So here we are using the program, the example is int which is having the facilities of a thread concept by extending the thread class, which is having a run method to perform some action. Here I am using the sleep method for 1000 milliseconds. So I did not handle that exception here, just I am throwing that exception. So what it will do, it will stop the entire program from its execution. So here I am creating the thread t1 by using the class int which is having the facilities of thread concept. Then I am invoking this. Once I invoked, then run method will execute. Then immediately I am introducing the sleep method. So now t1 is in sleep mode. So now we can use the interrupt method to wake up this sleeping thread into the active mode. So I am using the interrupt method, but once I am interrupting that sleeping thread, here the interrupted exception is occurred, but I am not handling that exception. That's just I am throwing that exception. Because of that, here this program is entirely stopped from its execution. So after interrupting the thread by calling the method, we are propagating it through the next state. So it is stopping the program. If we don't want to stop the thread, then that interrupt should be handled, that exception, by using where the sleep method or wait method is invoked, right? So here we are invoking the sleep method. There itself it should be handled. So the next program is giving that. Here you see the sleep method is invoked. Here itself we are handling that exception. Previously we throwed that exception, but here we are handling that exception, the so which is not stopping the program's execution. You see the next statement is executed after the try catch block. Still thread is running, this statement also running. Suppose if you have any more statements here, those statements also will execute without stopping the program, because we are handling that exception here itself where sleep method is introduced. So that's what we are saying. After interrupting the thread, it is handling the exception. So it will break out the sleeping thread into the active state, but here it will not stop the process. But in the previous program it stopped the execution. You look at that, sleep is interrupted, right? So the program also stopped, okay, because we are throwing the exception without handling that. So we can use either stop the program or without stopping the program. And when we are using the interrupt method, when the thread is not in the sleeping state or not in the waiting state, it will behave normally. That means, you see, here we did not use any sleep method or wait method. Both are not used. That means our thread T1 is in the active mode only, which is not in the sleep mode. Even though I am using the interrupt method, even though you are using the interrupt method, the program will not stop the process or not interrupt the process. It will perform its process as usual normally. You look at that, even though we interrupted the thread, right, it is performing the process, the sequence of numbers, then just it is displaying all the five numbers one by one, then which is doing the summation of that five numbers and displaying that value. After completion of all the statements only, the program is completes its execution and it is terminated. So when thread is not in the sleeping state or not in the waiting state, even though you are calling interrupt method, it will not at all having any impact over the currently running thread. So that is also another feature. And here we are having two more methods, is interrupted and interrupted. Both are boolean methods here, which is returning the currently running thread is interrupted or not, just it is returning true or false. As usual, we are defining the class with the thread facilities by extending that thread class, then run method which is having some action. So here we are using the interrupted method. It will take, right, either true or false. So in the main method I am defining two threads, right. First I am calling the method start for the thread T1. Now I am interrupting immediately that thread. So now it is checking. Okay, so initially thread is interrupted, right. So which is checking during the iteration 0 thread is interrupted or not. Okay, so here the code for interrupted thread is this one is executed, which is true. You look at that, is thread T1 is interrupted? Yes, we are interrupting that thread, then it is true, then this statement will execute. Then code for normal thread during the iteration 1, right. So you look at that, the after that the second thread we are using that. So then that is not interrupted, then if it is not interrupted it will return false. Okay, once it is false then it will execute. So that's what we are getting the output here is thread T2 is interrupted, false, right, that is not interrupted. Then remaining iterations for the first thread also, once it is interrupted, you look at that, immediate first time it is true. Okay, then it is in the active mode, it is in the active mode, because you see here we are not using any sleep mode. Okay, that's why which is behaving normally. So second time and third time which is working as usual normally, right. That's what about the this example, just it is returning true or false. Thanks for watching.